Well, hello, everybody. It's Wednesday, and when it's Wednesday, it's Hump Day happens. So we're here today, and I have a great guest, and it's going to be talking a lot about in your job. And I talk about being stuck in your job as well, but she talks about how to make your job joyous. So I want to welcome my guest, Gail Sussman-Miller. She's got amazing content for us. And Gail, can you let everybody know a little bit about you and why you do the work that you do?
Thank you for having me, Marsha. First of all, it's so fun how serendipitously, is there such a word, that we met. So I work with women leaders and their employees and help them to reimagine the way they think and work and how to increase their power in their jobs so they create career joy. And I have been doing this work for 20 years. It is a passion of mine to empower women and to help them ask for what they need. We're so busy taking care of others so often. And especially during this last year, I can't believe it's an anniversary. It's not one we actually want to celebrate, but it's worth observing. And there's a lot of still a lot of limbo loss, a lot's on hold. So that's the best place that I would like to squish in there, and that stress, and with everything being on hold, the impact it's having on us. So it's really a lot about my own journey, what I've experienced and what I've overcome and realized, and that's what I'm passing on to help others.
That's amazing. I love that. And my viewers know it, and you know it too. My story, I totally relate to this, right? Being in that soul-sucking job and not knowing how to get out of it, but just knowing that like really feeling stuck. Like, this is what I have to do, and this is like the card that I was dealt. And I've learned in my work, right, that you don't have to be in that place. That there are ways to look at. And it's not just the glass half full, right, versus the glass half empty, right? It's really about you and how you're coming to the table and what you're doing with the cards that you've been dealt. So I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
You've been doing this work for 20 years, okay? How has the corporate world or the business world changed in 20 years?
Well, it's interesting. And my 20 years as a coach has been visiting the corporate world, but not working there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about all of my clients, there's some really wonderful things that have happened, and that is more and more of a push to contribute culturally and to contribute social responsibility and to have a mission that isn't just money driven and not just customer driven, but also society driven. I think that we can thank millennials for a lot of that shift. There was pre-COVID corporate I would talk about, and then there's post-COVID corporate. There is so much that I've seen about how much companies really care about their employees. Maybe they didn't always show it, but I have had the pleasure of working with companies that have sent home a $200 check and say, get yourself a serious ergonomic chair. We need to get you a printer. We need to help you with your life. Here's employee assistance program support. We know you have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old running around and that you have these issues, and really caring about employees and getting how much well-being matters. That's been where my focus has been. Literally, I just celebrated my anniversary, March 12th. That was my epiphany day. Oh my God, people need help. I can talk about career. I can talk about how to speak up to your boss. Right now, it's all about how am I going to take care of myself? And one really big thing that's happened to the individual during all this is that wherever we were weak in setting boundaries with other people, asking for what we need or saying no or not staying up too late, limiting the amount of work, making sure we take care of ourselves. Wherever those boundaries were weak before COVID, they've been exacerbated. When your computer and your job are possibly 10 feet from your bed, and you can't go anywhere anyway. People were thrilled to give up their commute, but they gave up all their alone time, especially women and especially mothers. So people gave up maybe 2-hour commutes, but guess what? They're still working the 2 hours, maybe more. So I think the corporate world in 20 years is less structured in some respects. It's so dependent on the company. I do think that, and happily so, more and more leaders are becoming more transparent, more authentic. And I think, well, actually, there's a Thrive Global, Ariana Huffington's company, did a study, and this was in 2019 before COVID, that out of 45 employee moments or experiences, mental health is number 2 ranked by employees. So there's been a much brighter light shine on that. It's a big deal. It's where we know that it's, you and I know from the work we do, it's where people go to the well to replenish. It's the most important thing, but it isn't always given a lot of attention because there's all these to-do lists and KPIs and measure performance. And so I really think in terms of career joy, it can be within the same job that you can make things better if you can't change immediately, or maybe you haven't been asking for what you need and there's actually a way to salvage it.
I really love that, because you said there's so many nuggets that you just threw out there, and I was having some freezing issues, so I apologize for that. First of all, boundaries. Boundaries are so important, right? Setting the boundaries for how many hours am I willing to work? How much work am I willing to take on, and how do I need to delegate, right? And then the boundaries around how to ask for what you want, right? And when you're working in a cohesive team, right, you are just as important of a person on that team as everybody else is. And I do a lot of work with my clients about, are the people on the team, are the right people in the right seats, right? Are you doing, what the team is supposed to accomplish, and you have 5 people on a team, right? But are each of the people doing what is in their genius, or what they're best at doing, versus are they just doing the job that position is supposed to do? So it's a different way of looking at roles. I have a really good friend who talks a lot about roles and what hats are you wearing, right? But are you looking at what the person comes to the job with the ability to do, or do you take that person and you make them do what the job on paper is
what needs
supposed
to be done? Yeah.
Right. And I think that has a lot to do with the joy in your job. Right. And I did a lot of work in accounting. Okay. And there are people that are good at accounting that all they want to do is sit and put the numbers in the right places, and be able to give you all your financial statements and make sure that they're perfect and there's no mistakes, right? And then there are people like me who understand all that, but I want to be able to tell the creative story around the numbers, right? And it's a different type of that job of being able to say, you do the numbers and let me explain them, because you don't want to explain them. You just want to do them, right? So it's really making sure the right people are doing what's in their creative genius. And I think that has a lot to do with the joy at the end of the day. So having a manager or a leader be able to see the employees for who they are and what they bring to the table, and allowing them to voice their feelings, right? It makes you want an approach, like being I want to say approachability, but approachability is not a word. You want to be so Webster has a new word they're going to put in the dictionary next year. But being approachable as a leader, right, is as important as being able to share your voice as that employee, right?
Yes.
And sometimes the leader, right, is both an employee to somebody else as well as the leader of a team. So when you're caught in that middle and you're sandwiched, that's the hardest place to be. So what do you tell, or how do you coach that person who's kind of that taking instruction and giving instruction?
It's interesting you should ask about it right now, because February was a big annual performance review time for a couple of my clients. So we talked a lot about not only giving feedback, and actually I had some fun teaching some of my leaders how to give feedback using a coach approach, describing the outcome, but not telling people how to do it. Just here's how I'd like you to do it. How do you think you would do it best? And part of what happened is we got into talking about really the whole culture of beliefs around performance and performance reviews. What if, this was an interesting question I posed, what if there's no such thing as bad or negative feedback? What if you and your employee collaborate so that they achieve their greatest satisfaction in the role that the company needs to be done? And what if all you as a manager are doing is offering course correction? I know that you, Marsha, want to achieve this role, so we need to see you doing these kinds of things. I'm going to give you this project that gives you something to learn that will move you in that direction. I'd like to see you doing more of this, more of that, less of this. And I come down to authenticity and hiring people for who they really are, making a good fit at that end, of course, always is important. And sharing what's needed, managers sharing, being vulnerable and saying, I'm kind of worried. I don't want this to go wrong. I don't want you to perceive this wrong, or I need you to do more of this, but I'm a little worried you're going to think that. We have so many assumptions and projections. So if people in any role, so highest level manager, the middle manager, and the employees, are aware of their values, what's important to me. And if I don't, it's so important to be in alignment with those values. If we're not honoring them, then we can't be happy. Or if we let other people trample them, we won't be happy. So I really think that that manager, the more and more they can be honest with themselves and speak the truth to others. That doesn't mean, being rude. I'm just simply saying that they say the truth. That makes a huge difference. How they want the project to go, setting clear expectations, checking in, holding people not only accountable, but holding them capable. It's really about collaborating, and that words get used a lot. I'm not sure it's always really honored, but that's what I think makes it work.
That's awesome. And I just want to say hi to Magdalena. She's out there enjoying our conversation. She does a lot of the work that we do. And yeah, I agree. The cultural difference between sinking and swimming. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Magdalena. I feel like I'm back in my corporate job for a minute. It's kind of interesting how you fall right back in there, right? And you listen, and really was about really authenticity and being heard, right? And so it really is about the culture of the company. And the bigger the company, the harder it is for the culture, right, to make its way, not only make its way down, right? Because I think the people at the top understand the culture. I think the people at the bottom want the culture. But it's all those people in the middle, right? That are, and you have those. And I talk about it, and this is what was really interesting when we talk about millennials. So I'm going to put them on the side for just a minute, right? We baby boomers, right? We measured success by the corner office. How close do we get to the highest level, right? That executive floor and the corner office, right? And that's how we measured our success, right? Millennials measure it a little bit differently, right? They believe in the collaboration. They believe in the team and that everybody has what to offer. And all they really want is to be heard. And when you hear them, they really have a different way of doing things than we do. But when you're thinking about the mentality of the corner office and then everybody getting being heard and being seen, right? It doesn't match. There's a disconnect, right?
Yeah.
There's
It's so important. It's happening. It's in every communication, every interaction. Everyone is practicing it. It has to be everywhere.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about your system, P.I.E.S.
Yes.
I want to bring that up. I know you have a little visual for us, so I'm really excited because nobody's brought a visual to my show before. So this is a first. And
I have never outgrown show and tell.
Show and tell. I love it. I love it. So let's go ahead and put up that that visual. Perfect. And
Yes.
if you want to take a couple minutes to kind of walk us through it, do some training for us. I'm really excited about this.
Good.
And I'm going to take it away.
I would love it if everyone who's listening, whether now or in the replay, would grab a pad of paper and draw these 4 bud vases. Just think of them as literally the size of a glass. They only hold 1 flower. And then I want you to put a flower, just 1 flower, your best daisy or tulip, or it doesn't have to be a work of art, in each glass, in each vase, and label them P.I.E.S. The purpose of this tool is to help you assess your energy levels on 4 scales. So P is for physical, I is intellectual, E is emotional, and S is spiritual. Awesome. And I want you to imagine how important it is to this life form that it has water to survive. So right now these vases are empty. As you see in the drawing, I'd like you to put a number 1 at the bottom of your vase and a number 10 at the top. So after you've got that drawn, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. While you're drawing that, I just want you to know that a lot of what we are going through and that is causing stress for us in this year has been putting life on hold. A lot of restrictions, so many restrictions, and so much loss. Lives, jobs, money, freedom. We've had racial challenges, unrest, the election, so many things. And you may, and adjusting to working from home, all these adjustments, or people who can't work from home. So please know that you are under a lot more stress than you realize, even now. Am I getting vaccinated? When can I get vaccinated? How safe is it?
Right. Do I want to? Yeah, absolutely.
So today, I want you to think just about this moment, just isolating your physical energy. You know, I'm a Star Trek fan, so just scan down your body. How are you feeling on a 1 to 10 scale? 10 is the best, and 1, you don't feel great. You really should be in bed. 1 to 10. And then take your pen, and I don't think these guys can see my cursor, but draw a line in the water at that level. So if you're feeling, yeah, I feel pretty good, I slept well, I'm about an 8. Draw a horizontal line at 8. If you're feeling like a 3 or 4, draw that line down there. Then fill in the water, just quick with your pen, fill in the water so you can visually see how much water is in that vase. Maybe you forgot to eat lunch. Maybe, like me, I was very blessed to get my 2nd vaccine last week, but I've had some side effects. Now we're going to move to intellectual. This one's kind of interesting. It's how intellectually stimulated you are. Maybe you've been poring over spreadsheets, like talking about those accountants, trying to balance 1 penny. 1 penny is off.
That's right.
Your head is about to explode. Or maybe you're taking care of a 1-year-old and you're just craving intellectual parity with another adult. It's however you define it. Rank that on a 1 to 10 scale. Where are you at intellectually? Maybe your job's too boring and not challenging you. Maybe it's too challenging. Then color in the water at that level. Now move to the next base. The E is for emotional. We tend to think about some emotions some are good. Happy is a good emotion. Angry is a bad emotion. They're all simply information and energy. So you can rank yourself a 10 emotionally, even if maybe someone passed away, you're angry about something. Like right now, we've been having a lot of moths in our house. We can't seem to get rid of them. Whatever it is, you could still be a 10 because you accept what's going on. Your feelings are normal, they are natural, and you are handling it. So figure out where you are emotionally. If you're alone, working alone, and really haven't had enough hugging, enough connection, as many of us are feeling, you may be somewhat used to it, or maybe you're really having a bad day. So draw that horizontal line and color in the water. This last one, spiritual, has many definitions. I don't necessarily mean religious. The way I define it and use it the way you define it is a sense of connection to yourself, being connected to humanity, and if you believe in a higher power, a sense of connection to higher power. So again, 1 to 10, rank yourself and draw in that line. Now this is giving you a snapshot. All of these energy levels have a lot to do with how happy you are and how well you're performing. Take a look at where it's uneven and what area might you need to replenish. Think about the things that drain that energy from you. And that's really the purpose of this exercise, is to think about where in each of these 4 regions do you get drained that's within your control. Like, especially, I think, limiting your TV news, for example, not watching it just before bed. It's really designed to be controversial and get you all stirred up to increase advertising dollars. So, or maybe you read your news instead of watching it. That's one example. If you did give up your commute and you are not getting alone time, that is going to suck you probably physically, emotionally. That may be all across the board. So where can you replenish? What kind of things can you absolutely count on? You know, how can you get back emotional happiness and joy? What guaranteed activity will bring you joy? Like being with animals, being with a baby, reading something inspiring. So be proactive and take away some of the drains and plan replenishing activities. And you can also, just in the moment when you don't feel well, think of P.I.E.S. Say, oh, wow, I didn't realize I haven't even sat up. My back is killing me.
I haven't even stood up. I totally agree. I love this. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, the interesting thing that I really liked is the emotional piece, right? It's more about the awareness of your emotion, not necessarily being happy or sad or being, you know what I'm saying? And I really love that because I have I call it my mood temperature cheat sheet, right? And it talks all about where are you feeling and on that emotional, physical, and spiritual level, right? And when we know that we're not there, we're not in the green zone, right? We're not doing everything's in sync, right? Then we have to think about what do we need to make, where do we make a change in order to do that? And that's what I love about emotion, about, you know, the emotional piece of it and being aware of your emotions. And when you're aware of them, then you have to own them. And you have to own sad. Somebody passes away, you have to own the sad, right?
Yes.
But then you can look at the gratitude of what that person brought to your life, right? And what, you know, and and spiritually about what it looks like for them. Are they out of their misery, right? So there's both emotional sides to
Yeah,
something
and
when you're
I know
aware of it.
I know I'm interrupting you, but there's something that you just touched on that's really, really good. And that is, if you don't acknowledge your feelings, a lot of people stuff them.
Stuff them down.
Stuff it down. And there's an author who I like who likens it to us having a black velvet bag on our hip, a big black velvet bag. And we keep stuffing it. And we think if we don't give in to the sadness, I'm not going to cry. I won't express grief. I'm just going to have my chin up and COVID doesn't bother me. And that's all nice. But if we keep stuffing and not treating them, first of all, that can cause dis-ease. We can get sick. But that black bag, when it gets too full, it's going to leak out.
Oh.
And it will leak. Sometimes it leaks out sort of sideways, and suddenly you're saying something very manipulative, or you say something that has a real cut to it, and you don't mean to be that mad, but you've been stuffing your anger and not asking for what you need, not setting limits, and thinking, well, I'm fine. No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And then it just escapes. It's so important, that acknowledging. I love that.
Yeah, that's great. So, you know what? We are just having an amazing conversation, and we can go on forever, Gail. So I'm really excited that I'm going to be a guest on, and we're going to continue this conversation on your platform. So we will let everybody know when that's going to be. I love when I find somebody that I'm just totally in sync with, and that we just have the same message, but in a different way, which I just absolutely love. So here's what I do at the end of our conversation. First, if you want to get that the P.I.E.S sheet from Gail, please email her at gail@inspiredchoice.com, and she will send it to you. And there's a little more to the sheet than she shared with us. That's right. You only got to see the top half, guys. So there's a whole bottom half that she'll share with us, gail@inspiredchoice.com. You want to have a conversation with her. You have a business that needs her. Please reach out to her. I'm going to ask you a question, Gail, about nothing that we've talked about. I want to know, in the last year of COVID, right, we've all been watching a Netflix show, movie, something. We've been binging. Okay, so I'm going to close the show, but I want you to think about what is the show that you have to share with all of us. So, guys, what an amazing, amazing day. This has been just a great conversation with Gail. You know, Hump Day happens every Wednesday at 10 a.m. live on my Facebook group, Levity Leadership. And I want you to also follow me on on podcasts. You can go out to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and see older shows. I'm not going to call them old. So follow me there. And my new Facebook group, Unstuck Boss Ladies. So go out and find Unstuck Boss Ladies. There's such great content that I'm putting in there that I'd love you to share. So I want to thank Gail. She's going to tell us the Netflix show she's been watching. And I get confused because there's all of them, right? Hulu and Amazon Prime and no, Alexa, turn off. Alexa likes to come on every time I say something that sounds like her. But back to you, Gail.
It's all about Alexa. Jane the Virgin, 5 seasons. I was binge watching it like crazy.
Alexa off. Sorry about that. 5 seasons.
Yeah, 22, roughly 20 episodes per season. Funny, very dramatic. It's a telenovela. It's all about soap opera. Crazy, crazy things happen. Love triangles, you name it. It's everything, but amazing writing. Very, very well done.
Awesome. And let's get and put that up for everybody, the name of the show, because everybody's got to watch it. So again, Gail, thank you so much for being here. You definitely inspired us. We can find joy in our jobs, whether we're solopreneur or an entrepreneur. And just remember, it is tough right now because are we working from home or are we living at work? I'm going to leave you guys with that today.
I love that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marsha.